Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of New Readers Press, I'd like to introduce our presenter today. We are delighted to have with us Dr. Katie Brown. Dr. Brown is the founder and chief education officer of EnGen. What is EnGen? It's an innovative technology to upskill and empower language learners for jobs of the future. It's all of that and much more. And here's Katie.
Thank you so much, and welcome everyone to the webinar. We are recording this, and we will also make copies of the slides available afterwards for anyone who'd like them. And I'm going to try to save about 5 minutes at the end for questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. So today's webinar is focused on empowering speakers of other languages with digital literacy. And I'm Katie Brown, and I will be talking to you about how to do this, why it's important, best practices. So I missed a slide. Learning has moved online. This was happening before COVID, but it is accelerated since the entire world's been shut down for nearly 2 years as a result of a global pandemic. And what that means is we are all seeing new educational models. We are seeing new ways of reaching our learners, more flexibility and more access. But, and this is a big but, digital literacy is a compounding factor in the success of distance and technology-mediated learning. And what this means is that we have to be deliberate about making sure that we equip our learners with the skills that they need to navigate not only distance learning, but also a technology-enabled workforce. The National Skills Coalition estimates that 40% of English language learners lack digital skills entirely, which means that we have to help them with those digital skills while we're helping them with language skills and literacy skills and job skills. So how do we do that? Well, we can do it with mobile online training. Start with the technology that learners already use and have access to, which tends to be the technology on their phones, and use that to give them the skills they need to navigate multiple browsers and different Zoom windows and handling, different operating systems. We can do it with comprehensive digital literacy courses that really focus on the skills that our learners need to navigate first the instruction that they're getting and later the jobs that they're seeking and the credentials that they're seeking. We can also do it by integrating English instruction with critical technological skills. So we need to make sure that we're including digital literacy as a component in the coursework and the learning programs that we're designing, because every single job is going to require technology. So we can't just say 40% of the learners we're serving have limited digital literacy, so let's just not use technology to teach them. That's what we were doing before the pandemic. And fortunately, we're now moving away from that, but we're getting to the point where we need to make sure that we're building digital competency into our instructional models. Because as I've said, it's not just that digital skills are a prerequisite for learning, we're actually preparing the workforce for jobs that are all going to require technology. So here's an example of a digital literacy pathway. In this course, learners will gain an understanding of how to use a computer. They'll learn the basics of computer hardware, operating systems, and software. They'll also explore how to use email and navigate the internet safely. So this is a very basic beginning digital literacy course, and this serves as a stepping stone for other courses that require digital literacy. Things like how to apply for a job online, setting up a LinkedIn profile, understanding how to look for jobs on Indeed, understanding how to create an email address that you use for professional purposes, how to navigate different types of portals with different types of information. Whatever learners need to use technology to accomplish needs to be included in these digital literacy pathways. And what this is all suggesting is that we move toward competency-based instruction, not just for digital skills, but for digital skills, for language skills, for workforce skills, for the skills that are immigrants, refugees, and speakers of other languages, and also our adult basic education students need to successfully navigate the future that we've all found ourselves in. So learning a language requires learning a skill. It's not studying a content area. And it's the same thing with digital literacy. Both of those are tools that people use to accomplish other things, which means we need to structure our coursework around those skills. There's a research-based framework for language learning that also applies to integrating digital literacy with language learning. And that means we need to give our learners the opportunity to see many examples of the language or the skill or the task that they're learning to do. They need the opportunity to use technology to do those same things. They need the opportunity to interact with other learners in a technology-mediated way and to get feedback. And so any learning environment that is going to teach learners these integrated skills needs to give them the opportunity to learn by doing. And the right thing is different for everyone, which means we need to try to personalize this learning experience as much as possible. Like a blanket digital literacy course isn't going to solve everyone's problems. So to the extent to which we can tailor the content we're offering to our learners to their exact needs, the better it's going to work. And what that often means is having a bunch of learners in a language lab, which is finally becoming something that's possible again, where a teacher can circulate and help them all individually with where they're struggling to open up an email address, for example. Or it means that learners have individual Zoom sessions where they're working with teachers and coaches and facilitators on how to understand how to log in, where they watch you share your screen as you do what it is that they need to be able to do. This is all based on a framework that's called task-based language teaching. And the goal here is to provide a contextualized experience for your learners that integrates everything they need to accomplish their goals. I wanted to include some sample career pathways. One of the things that we've worked really hard to do is to build a digital literacy on-ramp, which you can see as number 1, so that we can give learners basically stackable digital skills that they can use to create on-ramps to the career pathways that they want to enter. So you can imagine starting with English for digital literacy and then working your way towards writing work emails, handling phone calls and meetings and presentations, remote work. And then once you've mastered the digital skills combined with the language skills at the beginning and intermediate level, then you can work on pathway programs for careers in customer service, IT help desk support, manufacturing, patient care and support, digital marketing, software engineering, data science, entrepreneurship. All of these are things that will require digital literacy skills. And so if we can integrate the digital skills with the language skills, with the career skills, we will get learners up and running as efficiently and effectively as possible. Investing in English skills and digital literacy skills at the same time not only enables incumbent workers and job seekers for promotion, for advancement, for job placement, it helps improve workplace communication and productivity and confidence and engagement. This is something that adult education partners across the country that we work with are communicating to local employers, that by helping take their incumbent workers and upskill them with English and digital literacy at the same time, they can help create a more inclusive working environment. They're critical, these skills are critical for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace and in the job in creating a pool of potential job seekers. But they mean rethinking our model. We have to rethink the instructional models that we've used up till this point to make something that actually works. And I have a few examples of instructional models that we're going to talk about right now. We're basically moving away from a linear approach to language learning and moving towards something that's more competency-based. One of them is self-paced autonomous English as a second language. Another is a flipped classroom for multi-level learners. Another is a self-paced English class with mandatory lab hours. And the fourth is integrated education and training. So for this self-paced autonomous model, what we're doing is letting learners improve their language skills on their own and then moving them into credential programs. So here's a sample scenario. We have Rosa, who's a high beginner in English and wants to begin a CNA program. She uses a platform to improve her English skills, focusing specifically on allied healthcare for a couple of months. Once her level improves to intermediate, she enrolls in a CNA program, but continues to use the platform for self-paced, personalized support. So that's one model that I've seen work successfully. Another is a flipped model where you have multi-level learners. So in this case, teachers are using learner data to drive in-class activities, and then learners move out of the class as they demonstrate competency. So in this scenario, learners enroll in a workplace ESL program, and outside of class, they work on personalized practice that's directly relevant to their career goals, to the prior educational experience they have, and at the right proficiency level. And then instructors use the data generated by students when they're working on their own to drive productive activities in the classroom, even when learners are at mixed proficiency levels and have different career goals. So during class, learners are working in small groups organized by level or sector or interest. And then learners move into CTE programs as they demonstrate competency. Here's yet another example, which is self-paced ESL with mandatory lab hours. And this does a great job of addressing the digital literacy component, because here's the scenario. We have a high beginner in English, someone who wants to use an IT career, wants to begin an IT career. He uses the platform and has to attend a weekly open lab to practice his English and get help with his digital literacy skills so that he can begin to improve his English focused on careers in IT. As his level improves, he enrolls in an IT help desk program and continues to use the open lab hours and the ESL program for support. The one thing all of these programs have in common is that they include access to a teacher, and they include access to help with the digital skills, with the English skills, and with the career focused skills. There's a question. There's a question from the crowd. What is CTE? And CTE is a career and technical education. And so we also have integrated education and training. And this is the last model I wanted to talk about. In this case, learners are enrolled in a career or credential program, but they use personalized English instruction to support their learning. So here learners are enrolled in an IT help desk certificate program. Outside of class, they work on personalized lessons tied to the course content, tied to the objectives that they're working on in the class. They have access to an ESL teacher for synchronous and asynchronous support. And so they're improving their IT help, they're improving their English skills, they're improving their digital literacy skills, and they're also working on this credential at the same time. So it's integrating the support that learners need, whether that support is for technology skills or language skills, while they're concurrently working on a certificate or pathway. So we partner with organizations across the country to help offer pathway programs to in-demand careers, things like allied healthcare, manufacturing, retail, customer service, IT help desk support, data science, software engineering, entrepreneurship, and all of these pathways involve a technology-mediated training platform and also enabling learners with the tech skills, the language skills, and the job readiness skills they need for careers in these sectors. And the reason that this works so well is because learners are getting access to the content and the technology that they need to pursue their own individualized goals. So it's not a one-size-fits-all program. It's not a linear syllabus. It's not, it's a competency-based model that really gets learners the skills that they need individually. Here's another question. If learners are working full-time, how can they do all of this? The whole reason why this platform is designed the way it is because it's flexible. So learners can use the platform anytime. They can access the content 24 hours a day. They can work on their own schedules. They can work in really small chunks. So even if learners only have 10 minutes, they can use those 10 minutes to work on a language lesson that's related to their career field, related to their next goal. The truth is that the United States meets the needs of only 4% of our adult English learners, and many of them are unable to attend traditional programs because they don't have the time, because there are barriers to transportation, there are barriers to that have to do with their work schedules. So offering a technology mediated solution that works at times when learners are available is one way to mitigate that. But it means that we need to make sure that learners have the digital skills they need to use the technology. Another question is this different from Voxy EnGen? No, and that's a great question. So EnGen is the name of my certified B corporation, and our mission is to remove English as a barrier for immigrants and refugees. The technology that I built while I was at Voxy is the same underlying technology that we use at EnGen. We've adapted it to meet the needs of immigrants, refugees, and speakers of other languages in the US, but it is the same underlying technology. Yes, another question about receiving the slides. Yes, you can receive the slides of the presentation, and you can also get a recording of the presentation. So one of the things I like to talk about whenever I talk about how to deliver competency-based instruction is how do we know it works? Because we need to make sure we can measure whether or not learners are actually achieving their language learning outcomes, the technology learning outcomes, the career outcomes. Here are a few ways we can measure success when we're moving away from a linear approach. One of them is proficiency assessment and achievement. Another is the ability to handle the targeted coursework. Are learners showing competency in the areas they need in order to move into a credential program? Another way of showing success is the completion of the credential or relicensing. And finally, a fourth way is job placement with advancement potential. But building these metrics for success into your program is critical to being able to show that using self-paced software in conjunction with an instructional model that delivers learners the support they need will actually drive outcomes and completion. I was actually on a presentation today with one of our partners from an adult education program in Newport News, Virginia, and I thought that it was so applicable to this webinar that I thought I would review this model to illustrate one of the models that I just talked about. So this is a competency-based program that efficiently moves learners into credential programs. Basically, there is a pre-course for learners whose level of English is insufficient to work in the IET program. This adult education provider offers IET career boot camps where learners get practice with the job skills that they're going to need for a specific career credential in allied healthcare, in logistics, or in IT. There was a large population of immigrant and refugee learners who were unable to access what's called step 2 on this slide. So they worked in a competency-based way with an ESL teacher as well as our platform in order to get the language skills that they needed to succeed in the IET career bootcamp, where they also had targeted English support for the career fields they were entering. And the goal here was to take learners and give them the digital literacy that they needed, as well as the language skills that they needed to move into career certification programs with the local community college, moving from an adult education provider to the community college to get a credential to then get placed in a career. So the platform that I'm describing is what was used to give learners access to the personalized content that they needed in order to get the language skills to succeed in the credential program. It was a piece of this adult education puzzle that helps move learners efficiently into career pathways. And then I wanted to share some outcomes data with you for learners who've been using our platform in sites across the country. Of all of the learners who we surveyed who use the platform, 80% in my impact report from last year reported saving time at work as a result of improving their English. 53% reported job skill improvement at a 4 or a 5 on a 5-point Likert scale, and 28% of the learners surveyed received job offers or promotions. And you can see some quotes from some learners here. The course helped prepare somebody for the GED. It helped someone offer better customer service. It helped one person communicate better with customers, coworkers, and supervisors. So the content here is designed to deliver real-world outcomes, and the technology mediated part of it gives learners the practice they need for these jobs that are going to require the use of technology. So to recap what we covered today, digital literacy is a critical issue, and instruction is moving online and blended, which can improve access, but which can also leave learners behind if we're not deliberate about a strategy to make sure that they have the skills they need to access our training materials. And the jobs of the future are going to require technology and the ability to use it, which means that we need to integrate digital literacy into career training at every level in order to give our learners the tools they need to succeed. 40% of English learners don't have any digital literacy skills, and this doesn't need to mean that we don't use technology to teach them. It means that we need to incorporate on-ramps to technology into our instruction. Integrating digital literacy with English skills really addresses two issues at once. And digital literacy skills provide on-ramps to careers with the potential for economic mobility. I saved some time for questions if we have any. I see there's a few things in the chat. Here's a question, but please chat in your questions. How is your platform different than the North Star program? So the North Star program is designed specifically for digital literacy skills, regardless of whether or not learners are English learners or adult basic education learners. Our platform is designed for speakers of other languages who need to improve their English skills and integrate those English skills with their real world goals. So in our platform, we can help learners who have very limited English proficiency get the English skills that they need, as well as the digital literacy skills at the same time. Our digital literacy pathway is actually aligned with the topics in the North Star curriculum, but it's adapted for learners who are learning English. So many of my students do not have computer access or internet at home. How does that enter into this program? That is a problem that many learners face. The platform that we offer can be used offline, and learners can connect to Wi-Fi on their phones when they have it and download lessons to do when they don't have it. So when learners don't have access to technology at home, what we can do is make it so that they can use whatever technology they do have in an offline way, and that's what our platform does. Somebody is asking here, 40% of English learners do not have any digital literacy skills. Why is this? We are a standalone intensive English language program and see this especially in our lower level students. We don't often work with refugees, so that's not why in our case. The reason why learners don't have any digital literacy skills is because they don't have access to technology, and because they have not been in either educational settings or career settings where technology is required. So if they don't have access to computers at home and they don't have a reason to use technology or access to the tools, they just don't have those digital literacy skills. That doesn't mean that they can't quickly get them. They've just never been in a position to have access to them. Another one was, are you planning on sharing this presentation online? And the answer is yes. Are there any more questions I can answer? I'd love to answer specific questions about digital literacy if there are any. I didn't really touch on the population of learners that is very low digital literacy and also very low literacy, which is the hardest population to work with. But we've seen a lot of success with helping those learners by doing mobile first training and letting them get access to the technology skills by watching videos of people doing the same thing and screen shares of people doing the same thing on phones. How would I recommend getting started building an integrated digital and English literacy program? So the first thing I would recommend when building any program like this with integrated skills is doing a really quick needs assessment and figuring out who you're serving and what they need to be able to do in English and how that overlaps with the digital skills they need, and also what technology they have access to. And using the answers to that needs assessment, you can work backwards and start designing a curriculum that gives learners practice with the content and topics that they need to have for whatever their goals are, leveraging the technology that they have available. But definitely starting backwards from a resource perspective makes sense, because you don't want to just design a curriculum or take an off-the-shelf curriculum if it's not going to match what your learners actually need to be able to do or the materials they have available to work with. How do you overcome the fear of technology? That is a great question, and it actually overlaps a lot with the fear of learning a new language. It is very difficult for adults to learn new skills, because when we start learning new things, no matter what they are, like if I tried to learn to surf right now, I would be horrible at it because I'd be brand new, and we don't like being bad at things. So learning to use technology is a new skill. And also learners are afraid they're going to break it and they won't know how to fix it. So the very first thing you need to do is make sure that they know that they can't break it. I mean, unless they like pick something up and throw it, but pushing the wrong buttons or answering the question the wrong way, it's not going to make the computer explode. It won't make the phone explode. It won't break. They need to feel comfortable using it. Adults learn by doing. And so when adults feel like they can practice something in a low stakes way, the fear starts to go away. And the good news about technology is that the learning curve is way less steep with technology than it is with language learning. Like learning a language is really hard. Learning to use technology, adults can master how to turn on and turn off a computer and use a phone to send a message, and entering an LMS and participating in a remote meeting. They can learn to do those things pretty quickly. And as they start to build technology skills, they will be able to add new skills on. Another way to address the fear issue with language and technology together is to put learners in groups of other learners. Peer support helps with everything, especially when you're working with learners who are speakers of other languages, because if they have a peer or a buddy that they can work with, then they will get the support they need to share about what they're afraid about and ask specific questions about how to use things. It helps remove some of the barriers to trying new things. I'm trying to see where we are in time. We have 3 more minutes. Would you please put the recap slide back up? Sure, but we can also share the slides. Let me find the recap slide. There we go. I think I've answered all the questions that we have, unless anyone has another one they want to chat in. I really appreciate everyone's attention today. I hope that this was helpful, and I look forward to connecting with anyone who has any questions afterwards.
Thank you very much, Katie. We really appreciate your information and sharing it with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.